Alright guys, welcome. I'm making this to share what I would do exactly as of today. And trust me, these times it is all about speed. So I'm gonna share my most updated guide or just thoughts about how you should be performing on a daily basis. And if you're even new here, this is gonna be literally all you need because I'm gonna share what it really takes to make it work, to make organic dropshipping work in 2026. Again, in times of uncertainty and whenever you feel that you're being overwhelmed with unnecessary energy, the best way to pour that energy into is usually work. Okay, and this is one or the first mind frame which I would like to share with you guys, and I'm going to be linking mind frames every now and then to our topic today, which is dropshipping. So the reason this is important is because after mentoring a lot of people for free, by the way, I do it for my affiliate program, I have noticed that there's a pattern of mindset and it's very trainable. You can, adopt this mindset over time. You just need to practice it every single day. And I've noticed that whenever your why, so why are you doing this? Whenever it's bigger, your work ethic is going to be, dramatically better than others. It's a PvP game, player versus player. So you're going to be outperforming others, whether that is with your time efficiency. So you would get done, 2 hours worth of work in half an hour, or just working for a longer time than others. So that's the first thing, okay? So the first thing is if you feel like you're being overwhelmed with energy, with unnecessary information or energy, which is happening recently, right? Then my advice is to pour it into something, whether it's gym or work, right? So this is something you could start the day with, the gym, and then work. So what is work when it comes to organic dropshipping? Because this is a bit confusing to a lot of people, especially beginners. So again, this is going to be for beginners all the way till advanced. I'm sharing my mind. I'm just picking my thoughts and sharing them with you guys because I want to, just link everything together and give you all the required tools for you to actually make it work because I know that it's not easy. And yeah, so the first thing I want to talk about is the work. So what are you required to do on a daily basis for it to work? The first thing is you need to create, period. That's it. You need to create more. A lot of people, especially like organic dropshippers, okay, forget the paid ads community. We're talking about organic because even the paid ads, they're creating like tens of creatives per day. But for us organic dropshippers, we need to be creating every single day because not only does it nourish our skill, and that's the number one skill, TBH. So the number one skill is to create, and by doing it on a daily basis, not only will you get better at creating content, but also the algorithm is going to favor you, right? So that's number one. And just to give you like a quick clarification, you don't need to spend 6 hours recording. You literally just need to, depending on the product, okay, I'm not going to say 10 minutes, I'm going to put 20 minutes as the bare minimum because beginners usually they would record anything, right? They would record once, they wouldn't have the eye for it to see whether this is good or not. And if you're in that position, it's fine. All you have to do is open up one of the vital content of your competitors, whether they are in the same niche or different niche. So whatever piece of content you're trying to recreate, check it and make sure that you benchmark that page or that piece of content so that your quality of content is gonna have to be at least the same as theirs or better. So you're setting a standard of quality. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing actually I've seen is that from personal experience as well, I put probably like I do the same movement 10 times before I, confirm that, okay, this is the good shot where I could, edit it for my final video. So you should do the same. And yeah, that's why it takes like 20 minutes plus. So literally, if I were to record a normal video, it would take me like 5 minutes for the product. But because I'm repeating the movements until I find the perfect move, it's taking up to like half an hour. So you should think about it in terms of ROI. When you put more effort in, okay, it's more likely to go viral. So that 20 to 30 minutes is actually gonna make you, I don't know, like whatever it converts for you. But we can say like if you go viral from 20 to 30 minutes, you could make up to like 10K from one video, or even more sometimes. So the point is, put more, quality into your work, not just quantity. And I want to link it as well, because the moment you create really good content, you could actually split test it, and that's when like it becomes easy, because you could just duplicate the content, change maybe the hook, the text, the audio, few things here and there. Or option two is just recreate it from scratch, but you can start off by just duplicating the content and just changing a few things. And that's actually what we call split testing. So what you're doing is you're trying to change a few things from the video to determine what actually made it go viral, but also to replicate the success of the video. So oftentimes it could be the hook of the video or the text which made it go viral. So that's the point here. Which I'm trying to say is that put more effort into the work, make sure it's actually quality content, and the moment you do that, you're gonna print, because this video you can replicate it again, you duplicate, post it again, and if you're worried about getting shadow banned, you don't. On IG, you don't get shadow banned. Same for Facebook, and these two are the primary platforms for most of your success with dropshipping. So yeah, so we're gonna split test after we find our winner. So that's the first few things I want to talk about regarding the creating part, okay? The next thing regarding work, okay? And remember, these are daily things. When I first started, I thought that all I need is, this flame of motivation to look up what is dropshipping one day of the week and then get back to gaming and every other activity I used to do. But later I realized it's a matter of day, like what you do on a daily basis. It's not a matter of a week, right? A day is worth weeks for your success. So whatever you put into your day is going to determine your future in short term. So that's what we need to focus on, your days. So number one is create more content and quality content. Next is going to be become so good and efficient at editing, because the more you do it, the faster you become. So this is something which I still take a while to do, because I keep on changing the formats. I keep on testing new formats, testing things which are considered authentic, right? How? Because I would take a new idea which has performed well. Again, I don't want you to think that being authentic means reinventing the wheel. That's false. What I mean by that is I'm not following the typical dropshipping format. I try to find certain formats, and by format I mean ideas, video ideas. So it could either be from other, competitors, whether they are in my niche or other niches, but there's actually different ways of getting these ideas. It could be from dropshippers or even non-dropshippers, and that's what I mean by authentic ideas. So you could look at, social media and find something that went viral recently. Try to study what made it go viral, whether it's the audio, the text, the hook, and so on. And obviously it needs to make some sort of sense to your product, right? So maybe it's not marketing a product, but it's in the same niche, like the jewelry niche. So you could take that idea, apply to your product, and then go viral. So this is the reason I mention all of this, is because I am showing you that the more you change the video idea, the longer editing may take, because you're not very familiar to it. But if you just master, and by the way, this is what I advise for beginners to intermediate, try to find the top 3 to 5 formats, okay? And I would like you to think about it just like cards. So you pick 3 to 5 cards, and the way you play with these cards is you would shuffle them. So you would post this one, then this one in order, right? And then the moment you're on the 5th card, the next post is going to be, once again, the first card. And then you just keep on shuffling. So the reason why this is a very successful strategy is because it's very time efficient, and the more you do it, the more efficient you become with it. So again, very efficient with your time when it comes to marketing it or editing it, but also you get better at it every single time. So before you know it, after a few times, you're going to become so good at it, and your numbers are going to go up. You're going to go viral eventually. So how do you find these 3 to 5 formats? Again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Try to do market research. And honestly, not try, you should. This is something, and by the way, let me link it to mindset for a moment. When you are, and we all go through this phase. When you're posting every single day and nothing goes viral, whether you're stuck at like 0 views, you're shadow banned, or you're getting 100,000 views, you're on the edge of quitting. If you do market research on a daily basis, it will actually remind you that you're not on this lonely path that your mind is fantasizing, is that you're the only one and you're quitting. No, when you do this market research on a daily basis, you are not only, being inspired by brand new ideas, but also you're seeing other people who are on the same path as you. They're trying different products, or maybe the same product with different background, different everything. But then you see the hustle, right? So from a motivational aspect, it is very, very effective. And this coming from personal experience. Whenever especially when you're testing untapped products or untapped markets, if you are trying to just do your own thing and never get ideas, you're basically locking yourself into a room, and there might be like a lot of greenery outside, a lot of trees, a lot of life outside your box. But since you're stuck in this box, you're just, doing your own thing, and it most likely it's not working, right? Or maybe it could be working, but there's a phase where you're gonna put in a lot of work and nothing's gonna pay off. A lot of people, they quit during this phase. So you need to see the life outside this box, and this life is basically other people doing the same thing as you, but then they're winning. So you could take ideas from them, whether they're doing the same product or different product, as long as something, benefits you to your specific product or marketing, then you're winning, right? So this is a very, very important metaphor, and forget even the ideas, the formats. It's literally just for the motivation. The moment you realize that you're not the only one, it gives you the fire to keep on going. So market research, 30 to 60 minutes per day, is something you should be doing, okay? It's the same as product research. So that's regarding the format. So long enough, once you do it long enough, you're gonna find a pattern of things that went viral, whether it's the audio, the text, the hook, and you can just, find 3 to 5, even more, but I generally recommend 3 to 5, very successful formats. Get better at them. Eventually it's gonna pay off, okay? So that's regarding the formats, which are linked to the editing. So these two are the primary things. But if you want to dig deeper into the rabbit hole, the accounts. And this is a big problem. I know a lot of you guys are waiting for this. So how do you create a good account? And this will determine a lot of things. This will determine how fast you're going to go viral. This is going to determine whether you going viral will actually convert, but also whether, you're getting the right audience. So there's a lot of things which has to be, accounted for. So the first thing, I want to say that Meta, you could select or you could change the target audience. And I'm telling you, I'm the type of person who has went through every single thing when it comes to IG marketing, because IG was the very first platform, okay? So before I went viral, like super, super viral, and I'm saying like 300 plus million views on one brand, okay? One IG page. Before I generated all of these views, I've only seen success on TikTok and so on, because I started like 3 years ago, and back then TikTok was a move. So over there, I have like 40 million views before I started seeing success on IG. So the moment I got these ridiculous amounts of views, I've realized that numbers don't mean anything. So if I were to get 20 million views back then versus 1 million views right now, okay, I'm not gonna lie, maybe it's like 50 million back then versus 1 million views right now, it's gonna be equivalent in terms of like conversion rate. So how did I manage to, you know, fix the account? Because I'm still using this one account for one of my products. I have multiple winners right now, but that account, I managed to run it long enough and fix the content, fix the settings of the account. And, the it's more like the recommendations of the page, or like, how do I say it? It's more like when you warm it up long enough, you could change what your account is going to show you. So I made it so dedicated to what I'm trying to target, to the point where everything's changed. So let me break all of these down for you, because back then, again, at 300 million views, it was like 90%, if not more, unwanted leads. Like, trust me, you don't want that. Nowadays, it's like 30% US, and then, I would say 20 to 30 EU, and then maybe unwanted leads. And that's, in my book, is a big W, okay? So how did I manage to do that? Especially from like fixing a bad account to a good account. Because oftentimes people would just dump the account and create a new one. But the reason I didn't do that is because it was a big page. So there's a few exceptions. I would advise you to start fresh, okay? So a good fresh account, or if you have like a primed old account, you could do that. But the number one thing that actually matters, again, this is for IG, and it's a bit different from Facebook, so it's only for IG for now. It's not always about, the IP and so on. It's actually more about your content, the post timing, and I want to emphasize about these 2 points, because these, I would say, have accounted for the most part in terms of the reach. So how did I fix the views? First thing is I completely changed the formats. So I've realized that the old formats were performing really good in terms of views on paper, but they're not converting as much as I would like to. So the formats, they determine your CVR. This is very important to understand. So if you go viral for the wrong reason, you're not going to convert, okay? So this is not only for the video idea, but also the call to action. Always try to put a call to action in the end. So consider every single video that you post as if it's going to go viral. Something really important to consider, okay? Next point is the post timing. I never post outside of this window. It's around 6 p.m. I'm gonna be more flexible for you guys. 5 p.m. CET. You could check this time to your local time, all the way till like 7 a.m. CET. 7 or 8. So this is like the prime window for posting. If you want to make it more strict, I would make it like 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. But generally around this window is the best to post, and you're gonna see a big difference. So the post timing, the video idea, and then lastly, the audio. Audio is very important. And text, I'm not gonna, you know what? I'm not gonna even put it. It's not that important. Audio is more important. So format, post timing, audio, really important. I'll give you a short example, okay? A very brief example. Funk music, they're gonna get you very poor quality leads, okay? That's one tip. So here you go. I gave you some of the biggest tips to getting the best, or fixing your reach, okay? Now, one more thing, which I wouldn't recommend to everyone, but if you really feel like your account is really bad, then the very last exception would be turning your account into a professional account, and then going to your settings, and then limiting or restricting the age based off, or the country based off age. So there's a setting which makes it limited to 25 plus. So people who are 25 or older can see your content, and then you can select from which country this age, applies. So, this is gonna limit your views dramatically, but it did the work for me. I've tested on multiple accounts. Few accounts did not pay off. My main account did pay off. So you could test, but these like first few points were the most important. Again, if the account is really bad, it's oftentimes because of one of those, okay? And you know what? Because I'm trying to make this very comprehensive. The very final point is the niche. There are a few niches which just generally don't perform as good as you may imagine. So try to pick niches that get you better quality leads, okay? So that's regarding the account. I mean, so far I gave you, again, this applies to everyone, beginners to advanced. There must have been something here that will help everyone. So hopefully, I mean, I'm delivering something out of value. But the final thing now I would like to talk about is mindset, guys. Mindset is everything. So speed. You need to always like act. Obviously, you want to be smart with your actions, but the one thing which I've realized over time is sometimes underthinking, although it's not a thing, underthinking is way better than overthinking. So if overthinking means that what should be done today is going to be delayed for 3-4 days or even a week, then you should just do it now. Okay? A better plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. I think that's what they say. So it's very true. Speed is, I can't emphasize this enough because this is one thing I had to learn over time. And I just want to like see everyone doing well. So whenever I say this, it's coming from personal experience. So let's say you want to do niche growth or you want to test a new product. You don't need to think a lot. By the time you know, create accounts, test the product, like order it and test it, you would be done testing the product by the time of a different version of you in a different realm, which was overthinking this entire time. So that person would have wasted like a week thinking whether they should run the product, but then you, in your dimension, have already ordered and tested it, but then you didn't work. Like it didn't work out for you. So at least you can pass to the next product, right? And move on. But then that other guy in the different dimension is just thinking and draining their energy. What if I ran that product? They would never know. So that's the philosophy behind taking actions quick. And some people may say, you know, it's better to create a perfect plan, but the more I grow, the more I learn, I realize perfect plan is not a real thing. There's few things you can control in life, okay? So honestly, like I'm talking a really like real talk. The only thing you control is your actions, your thoughts. So there's no really perfect time because you cannot control the factors around you. So might as well just do the things that you know you should do every single day. And this is gonna get harder over time, by the way. So regardless of how much you're making, I thought this was just a thing when you were making like your first, like on your road to 10K a month, okay? I thought that was like a thing, but it's not. Here's the thing which I'm talking about. So let's say today you make 3 sales and you feel pumped up. You get motivated, you start creating more and posting more because you got more sales. But then the next day you get 0. On that day, if you have never experienced this before, naturally your mind is gonna feel so bad to the point where you're gonna be crippled. Crippled in the sense that you don't feel like recording, you don't feel like posting, right? It might not happen on the first day, but eventually it's gonna happen, trust me. If you are gonna leave the thoughts or the actions based off your mind, okay, the subconscious mind, it's gonna happen. So might as well take control of your mind and just do the same exact thing. And this is one thing which I always relate to. So my best days, for example, Q4, I remember I was posting 10 times a day. Okay? Like I would say 7 to 10 times a day. So every single time I feel like, you know, I'm getting demotivated or I'm not getting the outcome I would like to get, I always like to think of those good days. And you know, Q4 is always going to be the best for anyone. So try to, set these standards for yourself. And if you want it to be even like more fair or more flexible, it's 5 to 10. This works for Meta. Okay, there's no limit. You can post 100 times a day. So that's what I do on my bad days. I just remember those good days, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm not putting the amount of work I should be putting to make the outcome I would like to get. So this is not easy, okay? Trust me. And this applies to everyone, by the way, like different levels. So this applies whether you got today one sale and then next day 0 sales, or whether today you made 1K, next day you made $100. You're gonna still feel the same level of sting of I don't know. It's like a crippling sort of feeling. So, or whether it was like 10K month and then next month is like something less. So the best way to deal with this is to just do the same things. And it's going to be easier when you have memories of good days, so you could relate to the good days and think, what did I do differently on that day? What was the content? And then you could apply that to your bad days, so you could put in the same amount of work. So these are a few things which I would recommend that you keep in mind, and it's a daily thing, okay? So it's simple to say be stoic, but it's really more than just being stoic. It's more about not being affected by outer things, obviously, but then also to be motivated. So obviously, like making 0 sales after like a 1K day, for example, would obviously feel bad, right? But then if you ignore it, sure, that might be good. But it's more than just ignoring. It's actually more about having the vision or being optimistic, regardless of what number you're getting, that you always put in the same amount of work. So it's not really just being stoic. It's more about having such an unshakable vision and faith that you're gonna make it, right? So you put in the same amount of work every single day. So that's what I'm getting at. So let's see if there's any final notes I would like to give. Because again, it's the why. The why is what matters the most. So make a list of at least 20 things which you are working towards. Could be anything, okay? But it needs to be very personal, very emotional to you. And these things should be your driving factors that you work towards every single day. And trust me, that's actually the determining factor to whether you're gonna perform better than others, because you need it more than them. Okay? That's why people, they often, go rock bottom before they, become very successful, because they feel what it really is to need it so badly that they cannot, live without it. So they need to actually make it work. And usually it takes, these scenarios where you're like rock bottom to understand these moments. That's why it's actually a blessing to go through any sort of bad situations, humbly speaking, because I really think they teach you a lot about life. So these moments are gonna repel you to actually, win. It's like an equal force to everything in life. So you could construct this sort of emotion if you didn't go through it. Okay, if you're blessed that you've never gone through this scenario, then you could construct it internally that, today I'm not gonna eat, or I'm not gonna drink, just to feel this mental challenge, so that you get used to the feeling of like fight or flight, So this is what pushes us as humans forward, right? Try to find these memories that you have in the past, put them as cards, and then use them as motivational cards, right? Yeah. The final note is you cannot be a lukewarm. This is one trait which took me a bit to mention, but it's actually the final note I would like to give. It's a final trait which I've seen between very successful people and others who don't really do well in life. Is that people who do really well are very determined. They're not like everywhere, They're not just like a lukewarm. They're actually very focused on what they want. And that's how you should be. So if you really want to get into organic dropshipping, you need to actually give it your all in. You cannot be reading about it one day, then next day stocks, next day crypto, and so on. No. Pick one, stick to it until you win. And that's what I did. Okay? It took me a bit long, 3 years, but it takes a while to do anything in life. So time will pass anyway. Might as well do it, pour it into something useful. So that's my final notes for the day. Hopefully this was helpful. This was more, detailed, but I tried to give you as much information as possible because this is really, really important. And the last thing is, if you guys have learned anything, then subscribe, join my Discord. We have weekly Sunday calls where we do Q&A, product research on like our Discord community calls. And then the last thing is, if you'd like to be part of the affiliate program, it's more for intermediate. So if you have any sort of experience, then this is for you because I'm working closely with a select number of people at this point. So yeah, if you would like to be part of it, let me know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.